Hello, and thanks for coming along to And We Have an Office Dog, the digital agency podcast where we're talking to the people behind the agency, the service providers, coaches, and mentors to discuss what it's like working with you, the agency leader. With your host, Chris Simmons, the Agency Accelerator, talking to a different agency growth partner in each episode. What they love about working with you, what they wish you knew. All will be revealed. Okay, so let us begin. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, voiceover guy. And on the podcast today, I've got Paul Muggeridge-Breene, my first double-barreled podcast naming. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm good, thank you. Yes, I have the longest, strangest name in the agency world.
You are, in fact, the most annoying agency advisor that we have, because I've had to put specific code on the naming parts of the little widgets that show the agency advisors' faces, so that it doesn't put your name over the top of someone else's face. So, you know, we had to do specific development for your name.
Well, I appreciate that. I cause chaos everywhere I go. Banks can never fit my name on cards. My poor kids, takes them about 3 weeks to write their names, etc. So you're not allowed.
So, Paul, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about agencies, working with agencies and helping them. So, first of all, everyone listening is dying to know, who the heck are you? What the heck do you do? And what do you do specifically when it comes to agencies?
Sure. So I'll probably start by going right back to the beginning, about 120 years ago or thereabouts. So I started out my career as a journalist, working as a sort of TV news producer for ITN at the BBC in the UK. And then I moved to Australia for a bit and worked for the ABC over there, launched a 24-hour news channel there in the space of 7 months, which is an interesting experience and subject for another podcast. And then moved back in 2014, co-founded a digital content agency and grew that to about £5 million income over 8 years. And then this past year, I've moved to being an agency advisor, coach, mentor, consultant, insert word as appropriate there. But in short, working with agency founders, agency leaders, to help them achieve their objectives. And that can be, any kind of objective, any kind of outcome they're looking for, but just helping them, guiding them, coaching them along the way.
And is there like a sweet spot that you either prefer working with, or a specific type of agency need that works best for you and works best for them?
I would say not, actually. I've got a range of agencies and clients in all sorts of different stages, industries, types of consultancy agency. So, and they all need different things. They all need different help. But I think I kind of work with them all in different ways and kind of just provide whatever it is that they're looking for. So, yeah, I would say I found no single sweet spot yet.
Yeah. It's hard as well, because they're all different shapes and sizes, regardless of whether you've got a sweet spot. They've got the exact same problems, but in different varying degrees, and they've gotten to those needs in different ways. Equally, my vision of success for the future is different to yours from an agency's point of view. So, it's hard to articulate that they're all the same, but they're all equally just as different. It's
exactly,
quite a mad world.
Right. And the uniqueness is just fascinating. Like like you say, they can look the same and then they're absolutely not underneath. But also, it's all about, for me, what it is that the founder is trying to achieve. That's always the first thing. It's like, if you're trying to achieve X, then you need to go down a very particular path. But if you're trying to achieve Y, which might be ever so slightly different to X, you need to take potentially quite a different path. And I think being really clear on what that end goal is really critical to any kind of success.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long have you been? So you went and set up a 24-hour news station. You worked for the media and things like that. So how long have you? Because you've had some experience in agency as well as just advising and coaching. So
yes,
what was your kind of parting feelings of when you moved out of agency world? What was the impetus for that?
Really just wanting to do something new. So as you might be able to tell from my career history, I kind of enjoy doing new things, learning new things, building new things. So what I was really keen to do is just to try something new, but also use the skill and the experiences from like all of the career. Because what I find really interesting is there's lots of stuff that I take from the journalism part of the career as much as the 10 years in agency world, around leading people, around teams, around sort of growth. So one of the, as I said, launching a 24-hour news channel was involved doing that in 7 months. And that was a lot of change, a lot of growth, a lot of like new people. And what's really fascinating to me is that there are really clear parallels between that and the still rapid, but slightly less rapid growth in the agency. There's a lot of parallels between the two. So it's kind of taking all of that experience and sort of helping other agency leaders achieve what they want to achieve.
Absolutely.
Hey, voiceover guy here. Sorry to interrupt. If you're looking to accelerate the growth of your agency, then check out omg.center/info. Sorry, Chris.
Pay once for a voiceover guy and he keeps coming back, interrupting, trying to sell stuff to you good agency folk. So what is it that, like, we touched on the uniqueness and also the similarities, the dynamism of agencies as well. What is it that you love most about like working with them? For me personally, I love the fact that it's all to play for if they're ready to listen. Like and any agency that is really keen on making changes and they can articulate where they want to go. I just love that, speaking to them, and it's just, they just get it. They want to get it and they want to do it. What is it for you? What do you love the most about working with them?
I'm the same. I think the thing I love most is helping. So agency leaders, I just find agency founders are just incredible people. They have to be to have done what they've done and to have founded the agency. And they're so driven and they're so kind of, entrepreneurial and creative and innovative. And yet what I find is that because they've started an agency, generally, not always, but they're at the place where they are because they're good at the thing the agency does rather than running a business. And so they're kind of often, they have a lot of the right instincts, but they lack the confidence to kind of go through with it and to push it through and to make those decisions. And so I think probably my favorite thing is kind of helping them build that confidence. And sometimes that's by validating their instincts. And often it's about challenging some of the thoughts they've got, some of the decisions they're making, and kind of offering some different points of view, or just getting them to think in a slightly different way about it. But just, you taking that passion that they have, that's the thing I love, taking the passion that they have and helping them kind of channel it into achieving what they want to achieve.
Yeah, and it's the most expensive MBA you'll ever take, running an agency. The amount of things that you learn about yourself, other people, business, negotiation, everything that kind of goes into like the whole running of a business. The one of the things I've found most kind of enjoyable, should we say, about working with some agency leaders is that moment when there's a switch that flips, and sometimes it's over something that you feel is innocuous, but something switches and they go, aha, this is a business. It's not some beanbags and pizza parties thing. We can have all of that fun stuff, but we got to run it like a business. And it's when they start realizing clients expect us to run it like a business. They like the idea of, the fancy stuff and the cool things and all that sort of stuff, but running a business is where I have to go in order to get to where I want to be. And when they start seeing it like that, then some of it involves boring stuff, and some people love spreadsheets, but I think it's when that switch flips, you can see it and you can kind of feel the room change, should we say. And I think that's when you really get hold of your agency, is when you turn it into a business. The numbers, where you're going, whether you're on track, what you've got to tweak to get there, and it feels a lot less unstable and risk prone at that point.
Totally. And I think there's some people do love spreadsheets, and I am one of them, weirdly. But I think a lot of agency founders don't. And I think there's a kind of, I think that's one of the mismatches that I think can cause real problems, is it's really important to have. You don't have to be in the numbers every single day, but it's important to really understand them and have confidence in them, because it's so hard to make good business decisions if you don't have confidence in the numbers. If you're slightly worried about them, even sort of on an unconscious level, it's really hard to make those kind of confident business decisions. And so having those numbers in order, however that's done, I think is really, really critical to doing exactly what you said, that sort of transition to, oh, we're a business.
Absolutely. And, I one thing I've learned when I was running agencies, and also, learning it again and again working with agencies, is if you nail the boring stuff, you can do everything that you want. You can you can run the business how you like, as long as you've got all the boring stuff nailed. That's things like knowing your numbers, having your strategic plan, having things like insurance and HR documentation, all that sort of stuff. Nail that, and then you can slow all of the pressure and the thinking down and make good business decisions later. It's absolutely spot on. I love that moment when an agency leader goes, all right, fine, I'm going to spend a couple of weeks getting some of this done and work this out. And then you work through it methodically, and then you can step back and look at what you've got.
Totally. And I think there is a real, again, it's that the agency founder type, and it's not, across the board, but it's pretty widespread, which is it's a kind of, as I say, entrepreneurial, creative, innovative kind of mindset. And and that kind of 1,000 ideas a day kind of approach. And I do think that is sometimes those people find the boring stuff, that kind of boring but important stuff, a bit difficult, because it's less glamorous than the kind of the other side. It's less fun. Some of it is just really difficult, like people problems, workflows, systems, finances, like you say. So I think making sure that is looked after, however it is, might be somebody else in the business that does it, but just making sure that it's totally nailed is, like you say, there's you can't get to where you want to get to without that stuff being in place.
Exactly. And the secondary part to that, like you say, is this, like, you don't have to be the one that does everything. And I found it particularly hard. I don't know about you, but I found it particularly hard once I realized I had to. I found it hard to step back on something, even if it was something boring and hard and something that I wasn't suited to. I'd still look at it and be like, oh, I want to do that. I need to get that. That's my thing. It's my thing. And as soon as you realize that your business's bottleneck is likely to be you at some point, once you run it like a business, then get out your own way and start letting people do their thing.
I've been writing a series about like the critical hurdles on the way to that kind of £5 million income level. And the first one actually is around the £1 million mark and is all about letting go. It's exactly what you're saying, because it applies to all sorts of things in terms of how much you're trying to be across, how much you're delegating, whether you're actually delegating or just what you think is delegating. But unless you can do that, and that's actually takes quite a lot of work, and that's where it becomes a bit more, it's actually quite personal work rather than business work. It's about you as a person being able to let go and trust and have somebody else do the things that are quite important in your business. That's your baby. If you can do that and do that work, then you can power through. But I think that's a really common sticking point. If you don't do that work and you do want to try and keep hold of everything, it's very difficult to get past that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some people do it well, some people find it harder. But ultimately there's some kind of point in time where something changes and you either go down the path of making the right business changes, or you don't, and you kind of run the hamster wheel until you run out of steam. There's only a few ways an agency closes, and one is an exit, a nice exit with a sale. Another is you run out of steam and it has to just die. And then finally, HMRC or IRS come along and close it for you. And the latter two are less palatable than someone coming along with a big fat check. And you've got to make some uncomfortable choices at certain points to do that. Yeah. What do you think it is, though, that separates the best agencies from the rest? Because just UK alone, there's 23,000 agencies in total. I was astonished at that number, but then it's, if you account for like 3 members of staff and up to 250 members of staff, that's quite a big spectrum. What do you think it is that separates the best from the rest?
Good question. I would probably say powerful leadership. And what I mean by that is not just leadership from the founder, top person, but kind of leadership across the business. And I'd probably say this applies to any business, to be honest, but I think it's particularly true for agencies because we are people businesses. You know, I'm sure there'll be little exceptions around the edges, but by and large, we're not making widgets or products. We are making things through people's time, and because that involves so many people, I think the managing of people, the leading of people becomes really, really critical. And I think often it comes to like understanding what makes people tick, what motivates them and demotivates them on a broad level, but also on an individual level. That's why the kind of individual line management is so important within that leadership piece. But also for an agency that is growing, it involves so much change management, and really bringing people along with you on that journey is absolutely critical, because other people have this resistance to change that's just kind of quite inherent mostly. And so if you don't manage that process and manage them and understand, you know, what's going to bring them along, then you're kind of doomed to fail. So I think, good leadership would be the differentiator for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think leadership comes in different layers as well, in the sense that, so I often say that management is learned and leadership is earned, and you earn the different layers of leadership as you progress in your own personal kind of journey. There's times you almost sadly have to make some mistakes in order to be a better leader. There's other facets of leadership which are on the verge of management. They are process like, you know, you speak to people in this certain way or whatever. But for the vast majority of real leadership, once you understand how people tick and what motivates them, demotivates them, and you are able to articulate expressly what you're doing and where you're going, you get better and better and better at that. And as you get better and better and better at that, the people that you lead get better and better and better at following that and feeling that and leading downwardly as well. And you know, you're not gonna change the world or run the biggest, bestest ever agency. And I'm sorry to say that I'm pretty sure that those times have passed now in terms of this industry. You know, you're not going to be a brand new agency coming out of the gate with all the best of everything in the world and then be the number one agency on the planet. But you are able to make the change that you need in order to get to what you want. And most of the time that's internally in your head, that's articulated into a number, usually because it's financially related, but it has to be in order for you to anchor that to all of the nice things that you want to do. In order to do that, you need to learn how to get people to follow the leadership and follow the plan. You know, if I want to exit an agency and after the full exit period get 3 million quid in my pocket, so to speak, I need to have this many staff, this many clients, this many then this is and that's and whatever's. And in order to do that, I can't just like throw loads of leads down the pipe. I've got to know who we are, what we're doing, who's with us doing it. And those people need to feel like they're going somewhere along that journey as well. And you only get better at that as you do it and as you kind of earn those stripes. And it's sometimes painful.
God, absolutely. Yeah. And I think there's another piece there, which is about keeping people on the journey with you. And again, because agencies are people businesses, the loss of like certain individuals can be a bit, you know, catastrophic towards achieving an objective or a plan. And I think that's another really important part of leadership, is kind of creating the culture of the organization and transmitting. Like if the agency founder does something, it impacts everybody down the agency. They will model that behavior. They will see what's being done. They will think that's the way that it should be done. All the other leaders in the business will kind of model their leadership on that one person. So I think it's a cultural piece as much as anything else.
Absolutely. And you like we said earlier, you've worked in and you work with agencies now. If you had your own magic wand, you could only use it one time though. It's a terrible magic wand. It's only got one use in it. You could change anything you like about all agencies in one hit, and every agency immediately changes this one thing. What is that one thing going to be?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it would probably come back to the thing around finances that I talked about earlier. I'm really I'm really struck by how common it is for agencies to have not trouble with their finances in a kind of monetary sense, but just in terms of like the organization of their finances, like monthly management accounts at the core, just sort of simple sources of management information so that they can make good decisions confidently. And again, a lot of agency leaders, it's not their kind of natural territory. And agencies will have accountants, but not always. There are some really good agency-specific accountants out there. But a lot of the time, the accountant is doing their thing, but not providing useful information to help make management decisions. And there is this gap. And the agency founder often isn't quite sure how to kind of bridge that gap of what it's going to take. So I guess if I could wave a magic wand, I would solve that challenge and have maybe all accountants providing that right information.
Yeah, either that or some kind of immediate CFO role that just gets filled in every agency. I think the interesting thing is that even with agency-specific accountancy firms and management accountants, you have to be explicit in what you want. Because with accountancy, like legal things, like HR things, insurance things, there are 1,000,001 different ways that you can view the information. And we one of the sort of the financial watersheds we had when we were running the SEO agency was I articulated where we wanted to go and the core kind of scorecard of how we were going to get there, and that was then turned into the management and figures that we got every month.
Nice.
And the analysis that was given to us and the insight and the decision making kind of input was all focused around things that we'd articulated to them. So if we just said give us management accounts, you would literally just have your net profit, your EBIT, and all the other bits and bobs, and it would be relatively innocuous, and it wouldn't be a decision making type thing. But if that accountancy firm knows by the end of X financial year we will be doing this purchase of this thing or hiring this many peoples, that means we need this much cash in the bank. Here's my analysis that you're on track for or not on track for, that kind of stuff.
Totally.
And it made a big difference.
That sounds great. Yeah, definitely that.
Yes, we'll have that. So Paul, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast. If you have one piece of advice for all agency leaders that are listening right now, and it's a single go out and do X, what's that? If they're listening to this in their car or they're having their morning coffee and they're thinking, I need to go and do one thing today to help my business, what is that?
It's a really good question. The answer is, and I'm very conscious that it might sound like I'm just trying to sell my services, but I'm actually not. I mean, I'm genuinely mean this, which is have somebody that you can bounce ideas off. Have somebody that can challenge your thoughts, challenge your confirm or challenge. Just have somebody, because it's a pretty lonely business otherwise. It can be a very lonely experience and difficult experience. So that would be what I say.
Awesome. You can check Paul's profile out on the OMG Centre website in the agency advisors section. Give him a shout. Thanks very much for coming along, mate.
Thanks for having me, Chris.